Day. It's Valentine's Day, and to a lot of people, that means a lot. But sometimes there's a question of, as devotees, how do we relate with days like Valentine? And more specifically, how can we have a romantic relationship? How can we share and express love while we're practicing the Vaishnava philosophy and practicing bhakti? Because there's a lot of beliefs and ideas that sometimes get in our way from being able to exchange loving relationships in this material world. Technology in this material world. Like, for example, sometimes we hear from Vaishnavas and there's truths to it. But if you take truth outside of context, it can often cause some problems. So let's understand 4 tattvas or 4 truths that we can have to be able to have sane relationships as devotees. So Maya is an illusion, right? So love in this material world is just illusion. It's false. It's going to mess you up. It's just like a mirage. It only leads to suffering in the end. Or sometimes we hear that love is selfish. There's no such thing as pure love in this world. Everyone always wants something from you. Everyone's always trying to take something. Everyone's always trying to have some selfish interest, and it's not pure. The only pure love in this world exists in the spiritual world. We also hear that love is binding to this world. When we try to connect with someone else, Punam Bhavan Mahartam, there's a sloka that says the root cause that binds us to this material world, the one thing that brings us into this world is attachment, is love, is material connection, is lust that's causing us to be in this world. If we did not have that, Rigrogam, like it's described in that is the disease of the heart. So we're bound by this world, by this lust. And then we also hear, let me get out of the picture, that sense gratification is bad for bhakti. That's sense grat. And we should not be hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, and not completely absorbed in sense gratification like animals. So these beliefs can get in our way from being able to live in happy, loving relationships in this world. Also, we hear sometimes devotees believe that real devotees are in control of their senses. They don't do things like Valentine's Day. They don't do things like having loving relationships. Real devotees are detached. They have no connection, no love. They're brahmalin, near bed. They have no attachment to anything in this world. Real devotees are sannyasis and brahmacharis. Other people, bogus. Right? Not able to be able to grow and practice in bhakti. Or sometimes we believe that the only love in this world, the only love we should really try to have is love with Krishna and not be absorbed in Maya. We also believe, the story of liquid beauty, right? To not be bewildered by liquid beauty. There's once upon a time, there was a king. He was really attracted to a girl in Vrindavan, a lady, a Vaishnavi in Vrindavan. And he went and said, I want to marry you. And she said, okay, you can marry me, but come back in a week. Then she took a bunch of laxatives and put all the poop and all the pus and all the blood inside of all these big clay pots. And then when he came back, he says, who are you? Where was that pretty girl that I was going to marry? She said, that's me. He says, oh, but you were so pretty before. What happened to your beauty? Where did it go? He says, oh, I saved all the beauty for you. Here it is. And gave the pots of stool and urine and all the diarrhea and everything. So we hear these stories of liquid beauty, and it can lead us to believe that we cannot really enjoy in this world, which there is truth. There's truth to these stories. There's reasons why it's there in Shastra. But devotees have partners, they have lovers, they have spouses, they have people that they like and want relationships with. Devotees, they want to spiritually advance. I'm in the way of the thing, with their significant other, with the person who they want to see. How can we do bhakti together is often the desire of devotees. Some devotees, they love people, right? There's love in this world. So how do we have this? How do we come to a place of balance? Oftentimes we feel lust, right? Still in this world. And people like Valentine's Day. It's like, yay, it's Valentine's Day, heart, it's fun, devotees like it, right? So then the question is, well, what happens to devotees in this situation? And it leaves devotees to feeling guilty, that they're bad, they're something less than, they're unqualified, that they're not qualified, they've got low status in the devotee world, and there's no real place for them. It makes them feel guilty. A lot of self-help. Self-hate. A lot of this comes from like the Christian mentality that you're inherently bad. There's this original sin that is destroying you in some way, and that's this lust, right? Then they judge other people. Oh, look at those people, right? They get this judgmental desires come inside of their heart, right? They're blocked from engaging in love and sexual relationships with people. They feel like they have no hope in bhakti. Because lust is such a strong part of their being, they can't get rid of it. They seem so bound by it. They think there's no chance, no opportunity to get bhakti. So this makes people sometimes irritable, but sometimes people angry, sometimes resentful, and it could put devotees in a very unhealthy situation for advancing in bhakti. So in this class, what I'm going to do is do something which I think is very interesting. We're going to talk about the four tattvas, or four truths, um, I have it in commas, tattvas, because it's not exactly like a pure tattva if you want to get too technological about the term. But without getting technological about the term, what the tattvas means is like realities or truths to have a sane romantic life. If we understand the philosophy possible, we can reconcile the beliefs and the feelings that I just described. So the first thing that we need to understand is, what is kama? Kama literally means lust. Kama means attachment. It means attraction. It means desire. It's often also understood as sexuality. It's lust that's in our being. So what is kama, right? This lust, it's something which is a driving for connection. It's an energy movement. And I'll explain what I mean by that energy movement. If we know Srimati Radhika, there's this idea of Radha. Ra means anurag, with love or attachment. Dha means to dhavayati, to run. So Radha is running towards Krishna with much attachment. And there's this story how Krishna, he was Lila Aswadita Dori Durup. Krishna was present by himself, and he was kind of bored. He was like, I'm by myself, no fun going on here. So from his left side manifested, Srimati Radhika manifested into a separate form, and that form began to run towards Krishna with a lot of love. So I believe, and we're going to get into the philosophy and understanding what is love, that the original lust, or the original love exists between Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world, and part of that is an energy movement, or an energy connection, or an energy exchange, a giving of love and a receiving of love. Like Srila Gurudev describes, there's an ashray and a vishay, a giver of love and a receiver of love, and then there's the prem, the energy that's being exchanged between them. If we understand things from a yogic, energetic perspective, in previous days they had drishti shrishti. The Vedas, the yogis, they would just be able to look at someone and make them pregnant simply by the eyes, because there was an energy piercing or an energy exchange that happened through the eyes. So lust, in a sense, is this exchange of energies. There's two separate beings that are trying to come together as one. They're trying to merge. They're trying to intermingle. And that's when we talk about it on a sexual level. But kama, or lust, also exists outside of sexuality. Kama is much more about lust or desire. Like, you can be lustful over pizza. You can be lustful over ice cream, over food, over nice clothes, over money. Lust can experience in different ways, but in the same way, what we're trying to do is get something from over there to come over here. There's an energy movement, and there's an exchange, giving something to get something. I don't want to get too philosophical. We could have a whole class on this. It's actually really interesting from a yogic perspective, and a consumption of energy. We want to eat that food, or we want to take that energy and bring it inside of us is a part of lust. So when we talk about lust, there's actually different expressions of lust, like I was just explaining, lust for food, lust for clothes. But what we're talking about, the purest form of lust, is sexuality. It's its original form. So there we can be lustful for things that we hear, things that we see, things that we taste, things that we smell. But it's described that kama, or sexuality, in its highest expression, or its highest form, appeals to every one of the senses, and therefore it's considered to be the biggest form of maya and the greatest pleasure in this material world, and the greatest attraction for us, because it attracts every one of our senses. If we study things in the Vedic perspective, we understand that there's something which is called Adi Ras. Adi, like Anadi Radha Govinda Sarvakara Manakaranam, or Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajam. Adi, that word means original, or the original, the Supreme Personality, the original Supreme Absolute Truth, the origin. So when we talk about Adi Rasa, Rasa is a relationship, like we know about the different rasas. The original Adi Rasa is calm, or is a lustful relationship with God and the divine. So we understand like there's the different types of relationships that someone can have with Krishna. The highest type of relationship is that of a lover. That's Madhurya, and it's said because that has Kantabhav, in that it means that you can use your body, your senses, and you can use your body in a different way that you can't use in the other rasas. So our acharyas explain the different qualities that are in different rasas. Now, in Vatsalya Ras, you can, Madhurya can do everything that Vatsalya does, but Vatsalya can do things that Sakya can't do. Right? What Vatsalya has is Palan Poshan Bhav, or the mood of I have to nourish, I have to take care of this child of mine, Vatsalya Ras. That exists in Madhurya Ras and exists in Vatsalya Ras, but Sakya Bhav in friendship, it's not there. In Sakya Ras, then there is the mood of friendships, of equality, saying there's nothing, Tumiki Borolok, Ami Tumiki Borolok, Ami Tumi Shama, as described by, I think, Madhu Mangal. He says to Krishna, what kind of big person do you think you are? You and me, we're the same, right? You're my friend, I'm the same, there's equality. Chanakya Pandit, in one of his books, he says that friendship can only happen between equals. So this mood of equality exists in Sakya Ras, it exists in Vatsalya Ras, and it exists in Madhurya Ras. And then Dasya, servitude, exists in Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, and Shanta, no-anonymity, exists in all of these. So sometimes when we understand these rasas and these relationships, we think that Shanta is built upon by Dasya, which is built upon by Sakya, built upon by Vatsalya, and Madhurya. But the actual fact is there's the original lust or the original rasa, and this Madhurya is you're taking away certain qualities or certain elements of it, bringing it down to Santa. Now, I know that we're talking about this in the spiritual dimension. We're talking about relationship with God, which is its highest expression, which is kind of the next point that we're getting to, is that kama, as described by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his Gita Govinda, is an inseparable part of the soul. In other words, our soul, our very constitutional makeup, our dharma, who we are, cannot live without lust or cannot live without kama. If you get rid of lust, you get rid of maya, which is good, but you also do not have bhakti, and you're basically Brahman realized. You end existence. But as long as you exist, there is, as long as you exist, there's lust. It's going to be there. So how does this lust take place in the different stages of our spiritual growth? And how can we relate with this thing which is inseparable from our soul, which we cannot get rid of when we're not in the purest state? How do we do this? Do we go to guilt and repression and difficulty and judgmentalness? It can lead us to Vaishnava dangerous. So in the conditioned state, there's something in this material world. It's described as the Bahiranga Shakti, or the external potency of Krishna. That's Maya. That's everything we see in this world. So when we're in this conditioned state, we're not realized, then we lust for things of this world. We lust for beautiful women. We lust for beautiful men. We lust for all the, like a nice camera I have over there, or we lust for things of this material world when we're in the conditioned state. If for some reason we practice spiritual life, but not bhakti, not proper spiritual life, not true enlightenment, but we go to the path of the Mayavadis, or more specifically, the path of the Brahmavadis, and we detach ourselves from our body and we lose our self-identification with this body, we can go to the liberated state, and that's the state of nothingness. That's the state of Nirvishesh Brahman. There's no lust and there's no existence. And that, in a sense, you can say the jiva is like pure tatashta at that moment. It's not covered by Mahamaya, or the Maya of this material world, and it's not covered by Yoga Maya in the spiritual world. This is something that a lot of devotees, I don't think, understand, that we want to be in Maya. We need to be in Maya. If we are not in Maya, we cannot have bhakti. But the Maya that we need is Yoga Maya. It's the Maya in the spiritual world. It's what deludes us in the spiritual world. Like there's one place where the coward boys, they go on this slide. And we go there on Parikram. There's this stone, and then the whole Parikram party is going there on slide and slide. And we say it's like the water slide, the original slide that the Sakas, they play on. And then I was like, this is such a small slide. I mean, the one I had as a kid growing up in the park in the West was way better than this slide. I was like, how's that cool? And when Vaishnava explained to me, he said, but they go down this slide, but through the power of Yoga Maya, the illusionary energy of Krishna, they see it as like this big, super cool experience that happens. So this spiritual, when bhakti is awakened inside of our heart, then Yoga Maya takes control of us, and we serve Krishna under the influence of Yoga Maya. Purnamasi Yoga Maya. Purnamasi is Yoga Maya, and we actually worship her and we pray to her. Mahayogini Dishwari. And Katyayani Vrat is a whole class. Maybe next year we'll give some classes about the gopis worshiping Maya Devi, is Katyayani Devi, so that Patiteb Kurute Maya, so that Krishna can come as one's most beloved. So the next subject, which is needed to understand in order to be able to have a sane relationship with sexuality, the first one was kama, was lust, is that it's inseparable from our soul and it exists in the material state and in the spiritual state. Now what we need to know is what is sadhana? How do we go from material lust to spiritual lust? How do we bring that? So the definition of sadhana is bhavasa sanadabhida nityasiddha bhavasya prakritam riti sadyate. It says kriti sadya. Basically, what that means is any actions we do with our senses, with our body, with our mind, with our material things. That means with these hands, with this mind, which is material, with these eyes. If I'm sweeping the temple, if I'm eating prasad, there's still the earth, water, fire, air, ether. There's still the material elements that I'm interacting with. But we take that and we point that towards Krishna, then that awakens spiritual love, spiritual lust, which exists inside of our soul. It's kind of hard to understand. If you, let's say, for example, when we are doing Pushpanjali, we take flowers and we offer those flowers onto Krishna. Does Krishna care about our stinky flowers we got at Walmart? Does Krishna care about those cheap marigolds that grow everywhere in India? Krishna doesn't like that. He doesn't care about the material element, but what Krishna wants is the mood of devotion and the emotion that is being, how do you say, infused into those flowers and channeled with those flowers. And in essence, that's basically what sadhana is. Sadhana is a material practice we do that's pointed toward Krishna that gradually sparks and gradually inspires spiritual love. Like, for example, when we do kirtan, our lungs are moving and we're moving air out of our vocal cords. It's still a material practice. We're using our body, our mind. That's why when we chant Krishna, we don't see Krishna, because Nama Nami Abhed, Krishna and his name are non-different. If I was actually saying Krishna purely right now, I'd fall unconscious and see Krishna in the spiritual dimension. But I'm not, because it's a material activity that I'm doing. But infused into that material activity, when we're not pure, there's actually just like a shadow or a semblance of that true transcendental pure love. And when we're doing that, then that kind of sparks or like ignites that love which already exists dormant inside of our soul. And as you advance more in bhakti, it becomes more and more of a soul thing and less of a material substance thing. And that's why the highest Vaishnavas, they're not doing so much physical seva. They're not doing kirtana, waking up early and doing all this. No, the highest Vaishnava, and if you have association with very elevated Vaishnavas, like I was fortunate to have with Srila Gurudev, in their deepest, most spiritual moments, they're almost non-existent in this material world. They're detached. They're just sitting in samadhi, right? Senses detached from this world, and their siddharupena chatrahi, as described by Rupa Goswami, is in their siddha swarup, their internal spiritual form. They're serving with that internal spiritual form. So that's how sadhana works. Something that I just have to say is that a better way of inspiring bhakti is coming in direct contact with that higher stuff, with sadhu sangha, namakirta, and I'm not going to give a whole class of that. So, like our Srila Gurudev, I remember Gurudev saying this a few times, and he got very emotional when he was saying this. He came to our Srila Param Gurudev, Bhakti Brigyan Keshav Maharaj, the one who gave Prabhupada sannyas, and he said, all the love that I had for my friends, that I had for my family, that I had for my brothers, my sisters, my children, for my society, all of that love I've taken and I've offered that love onto you, onto your lotus feet. And I remember Srila Gurudev saying that Param Gurudev, or his Gurudev, Bhakti Brigyan Keshav Maharaj, some tears came in his eyes, a small drop of water came in his eyes when he said that, 'cause it was such a deep mood. But inherent, the reason why I'm bringing that point up is a lot of people think that I'm going to kill this material love. I'm going to detach. I'm going to get rid of my material attachments here. And then once I've detached from this world, I will be able to cultivate a spiritual higher consciousness because I'm not going to be, bound by the muck of this world. But that's not the way that it works. We don't give up material love. We transfer it. The same love that we have for our children, we give to Krishna. Like some devotees, they have little Gopal, Bal Gopal, baby Krishna deities, and their ladies and their children may be left home and they have all this affection for their children, and then now they take that and they put that to their Gopal. Some ladies have even seen push cars or whatever. I'm not recommending that, but what I'm saying is that affection that they had for their children, they transferred onto Krishna, and then that gets Krishnized, or that gets spiritualized. So in order to really understand, well, then what's our relationship with detachment? I thought we were supposed to Mahaprabhu Bhaktagan Vairagya Pradhan, as described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the main thing about them is renunciation. The main thing about them is detachment. That's what defines us. That's what our Acharya has said. There's all these sahajyas and bogus people in the other in Bengal that they're saying they're following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but if you're really following, detachment must be there. So then this can also get in our way of having just peaceful, sane relationships with devotees. So the next tattva, number 3, is Vairagya tattva. What is Vairagya or detachment? Vai means their Sanskrit words are like a composition of 2 words you put together and you make a separate word. So if you can understand what are those 2 original words, you will be able to understand the meaning of the word. So the first aspect of Vairagya or detachment, renunciation, is V, which means Vishesh Rupena, means a special type. It's kind of like a preface. It says there's a special type of Ragya, comes from the word Raga, which means greed. It means lust. It means attachment. So the word that we call detachment, the word that we call renunciation, vairagya, actually means special attachment, a perfect type of attachment. And that's what it is. It's love for Krishna. We have a special attachment for Krishna, and that love for Krishna makes it a natural detachment to this world. As described in Bhagavad Gita, Raso Varjam Rasopyasta Param Dristani Vartate. You experience a higher taste, like the cooking book, and you can give up lower tastes very, very easily. Or like one of my teachers in Gurukul described that if you have a bookshelf and it's filled with like all these bad books, like pornography or I don't know, whatever bad books are, right? Machiavelli or bad evil stuff, right? You're filled of all these books or novels, romance novels for people. And then you take like Bhagavatams and Bhagavad Gita and higher quality books. You add them to the bookshelf, and you're not trying to get rid of these books. You just keep on adding them, and then pushing over, and naturally they'll start falling off the end. So you develop a special type of love for Krishna, and detachment happens in this world automatically. What we do not do is we do not try to artificially. Actually, I'll go to the next slide, and I'll come back to this, right? No, I won't. I'll just say it in words then. We don't try to artificially give up things of this world. There's the difference between a disengagement and detachment. Our acharyas don't disengage from this world. Because if we study, there's, like we explained in the beginning of this class, there's adi rasa, or that original rasa, that original lust. And that takes on many, many different forms. Also, if you understand Shakti Tattva, or energy, everything Shakti Parinamavad, everything is a transformation of energy. So a brick, a tree, a flower, this microphone, everything is just a different combination of energy. And that original energy is Srimati Radhika. So there's Maya, Pradhan. This material world is like there's made of Mahatattva, this what I call like the original silly putty that everything is made up for. It's all just different forms of energy. So if we are talking about money, if you're talking about Kanaka Kamani Pratisha, you're talking about sexuality, you talk about money, you talk about name and fame, you talk about just being healthy, you talk about eating, you talk about anything, it's all just different forms of energy of this world. So when we're talking about detachment, if you're truly detached, you're detached from all of it. But that's not possible to live in this world. Some people on the spiritual path, they become, okay, I'm going to be detached from everything. They're Nagababas, and they take off all their clothes, and they walk around naked, and they rub ash from the crematorium on their body, and they don't brush their teeth, and they don't have anything to do with this world, because they say it's all Maya, it's all illusion, it's all bad. We give all of that up, and we're detached. And our acharyas say, don't be stupid. That's not the way that it is. What it is what we do is we detach ourselves, but we infuse everything for the service of Krishna. This is what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told about Yukta Vairagya. We don't take the microphone and throw it away. We take it and we speak Harikatha on the microphone. We use it for Krishna's service. My Srila Gurudev was a millionaire. Srila Prabhupada was a multi-millionaire with a real estate empire that was international. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he drove in a car in the time of the British, which is equal to having a private jet in this day and age. Right? Our acharyas were not about giving up the world, but giving up attachment to the world and using everything in the service of Krishna. And that's proper renunciation, proper detachment. Now, of course, there is a place for Kotai Go Prema Moye Radhe Radhe. of our Acharya, Chapandan Rati Ninas Radhana Govindabine. Beautiful songs that saying how our Acharyas, they're sleeping under a tree, sometimes eating, sometimes not eating, only sleeping a small time at night, and completely being attached to Krishna, and not absorbing anything in this material world. And this is a stage of bhakti which we also want to attain. And I give a class on this, but maybe not now, about doing this. So there is a place for a disengagement from the material world, but that disengagement does not happen before one has developed detachment. When you have detachment, as a natural side effect, you're like, I don't want this. Right? Let's say you're attached to watching like a stupid soap opera and show, and you're watching it all the time. Then you find a better show. Like, I'm not going to watch that old junk. I'm going to do this higher form. So when we practice bhakti, we say, okay, I'm going to experience bhakti, taste bhakti, hear Krishna. And there's so much, Varna Dwai talks about the, Gurudev, I remember explaining, so Tunde Tandavanirati, he was explaining in Italy, that there's so much sweetness that I wish I had millions and millions of tongues to be able to taste the sweetness. I wish I had millions and millions of ears to be able to taste the sweetness that exists inside the holy names of the Lord. I remember one devotee told me that his mother, Shravan told me that his mother, she went to Bhaktivedanta Bhavana Maharaj. She said, I have no taste in chanting holy name. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Bhavana Maharaj was like, really? Like, how can you not have so taste in this? It's so sweet. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you human even? Because it's so sweet. But we cannot taste this, right? But as we practice bhakti, we begin to taste, and automatically detachment happens from this world. But we don't try to do it automatically. So that's what we don't try to do it first, because that leads to monkey-like renunciation or false renunciation, untrue renunciation, and it makes the heart hard. And then what we cannot do is we cannot take that love and offer it onto the feet of Krishna, because we've given up that attachment, we've given up that love to the world. Sometimes Vaishnavas, they explain, who is in a better position for developing bhakti? The vairagi, the one who's detached, like the person we told who doesn't have any clothes, just walking around naked in India, that's I'm not eating anything, a beggar, completely detached from this world, right? Who's practiced yoga and meditation and strong rishis like this? Or is it someone who has a wife, someone who has children, a mother, family, and so much love for family and friends? And actually, the second person can develop bhakti easier because their heart is soft. They haven't become disrespectful to others. There's still tenderness in their heart. And that love from their heart they can take, and like our Srila Gurudev did, they can offer that onto the feet of Krishna, offer that onto the feet of Srimati Radhika. And then bhakti can come in the heart very, very easily. They can dovetail, they can transform and transfer that onto Sri Krishna. So then the last kind of tattva, the last thing that we need to know in order to be able to advance inside in bhakti, the last thing we need to, and have a sane romantic relationship, so we're not crazy and we can just like love someone on Valentine's Day and not have any issues, is we need to understand adhikar. What adhikar means one's eligibility or one's qualification. That means the different reality that someone is in. Oftentimes I describe adhikar and it's understood to be like the level of advancement. There's like adosha, sanga, bhajana, kriya, and artanavritti. There's the different levels of bhakti. First you have association, then you chant, and then you get rid of the anarthas, then you get fixed in bhakti, then some taste comes, then a deep attachment comes, and then after the deep attachment comes, then there's bha, then sneh, pranay, raga, and there's just different levels of bhakti raising. And yes, that is what adhikar means, is the level of advancement that you are in bhakti. But what adhikar also means is your stage in life, who you're being. If you're married, if you have children, if you're old, if you're young, if you're in Western body, if you're in Indian body, if you're African, if you're whatever your kind of state of being is, what is your samskars, which means your previous impressions, the things from the past, right? What are those impressions in the heart? That affects your adhikar. Let me give an example to try to make this kind of clear. Let's say someone really likes ice cream, and they every day as a kid, they used to have a lot of ice cream, and they see the ice cream truck, they hear the ice cream truck go by, and then it has all these neurological associations that has what's called a samskar, an impression in their being, and that impression says, oh, I need to go for that ice cream. And let's say there's someone else who they don't even know what ice cream is. They never heard it. They grew up in the Sahara Desert where it's too hot for ice cream and they don't have fridges, right? And they don't have any ice cream. They hear an ice cream truck go by. There's no attachment. So now there is the maya of the ice cream truck going by. One person has this strong attachment according to their samskars to go to that truck, and someone else no attachment because they don't even have the samskars, or they don't have the impression to go to that truck. So one person goes and eats that ice cream and the other person doesn't. Do we say that just because that person ate the ice cream, now they're more spiritually advanced? Now they have a higher level of bhakti? I mean, the one who didn't go and eat the ice cream? You can't say that because the samskars are different. The attachment is different. Maybe that person had a greater attachment to something else and the roles would be switched in this situation. So in order to be able to understand what is right or how do we relate with people, how do we relate with detachment in this world, we have to understand our individual psychological makeup, our individual situation in life, what our karma is, what our samskars is, and what's our level of spiritual advancement. So this is something which is so key to understand. What is right for one is wrong for another. What's someone's maya is someone else's bhakti and service. And that's why you must have guru. Because if you don't have guru, it's very hard to figure these things out. Very hard to advance in bhakti like this. So we don't do markata vairagya, or we don't do monkey-like renunciation. Because what monkey-like renunciation is, we try to act on a different adhikar, or a different level of being, a different stage of bhakti than our actual level of bhakti. And then we do that with ingenuine renunciation, and it can make the heart hard, which can get in the way of bhakti. It can stop us from being able to transpose our love and to serve into Krishna. And then also it can be used as a way of getting name, fame, right? To have people say, oh, look how renounced he is. Like there's the baka, which is the crane. They stand there. You can't see it on the video, but basically they stand there with one leg and they look so renounced and so detached. But as soon as that fish comes in, they go and eat that fish, right? Our Vaishnavas talk about that. This is fake bhakti, not there. But so many people would say, oh, look, he's so detached, and go give so much respect. So we don't encourage false-like renunciation like this. As Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Raghunath Das Goswami, Jata Yoga Vishay Bunda Ana Shaktis Hoya. Enjoy as much as your qualification needs. Renunciation is not about giving up enjoyment. Renunciation, detachment in spiritual life, is about having a steady chitta, or a steady mind. The chitta is kind of our consciousness, is our seat of awareness. And if it is disturbed, it's hard to remember Krishna. Bhakti is all about remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Offer your love unto Krishna, sadhana, like we explained before. So if you are overindulging in something and you're going for Maya and you're going and you're going and you're pushing, your chitta can become unbalanced and very hard to remember Krishna. But the same thing is if you are under enjoying, if you're holding yourself back from enjoying things of this material world, then also heat, tapasya is called tap, it means heat develops inside of the heart. The chitta becomes disturbed and also very hard to remember Krishna. I had experience with this actually I'll tell the story since it came up right now. You know, in Radhakund, Giridhari Brahmachari, who manages there, him and me came to the temple around 1 week apart from each other. I came 1 week before him, and we were staying in the temple at the same time, and it was Purushottam month, the month of Purushottam, where there's where oftentimes people do detachment and they do austerities. And we had what I call new devotee syndrome. We're like, even though we've been devotees our whole life, but like still we're like all fired up coming to Srila Gurudev. And we said, we're just going to drink milk and fruit for the whole month. We're going to be completely detached. And I remember we were doing this, and everyone else was eating like normal temple prasadam, and some devotees were doing havishanna, which is like rice and milk and like a little less austere than we were. And I remember our egos were like, yeah, I'm so spiritual. I'm more detached than these people. And I was thinking, well, that's probably not good for my bhakti to think that I'm superior and to be able to create that ego. But then I remember we would spend like 4 or 5 hours planning our milk. We'd only eat once a day, milk and fruit. So we were going to the store, we were buying it, then we were taking and we were preparing it. And then we're just remembering, I can talk for myself, right? He's very elevated Vaishnava, but I think he shared a little bit with me. We're just remembering, when is this fruit going to come? When is this milk? We're going to do that. And it was just so hard to chant. It was so hard to practice bhakti. And then I was sitting there, I was doing this austerity, and it was we were on the roof with Srila Gurudev in Mathura, and he was giving out, some people would give him a box of sweets, and he was giving out these different sweets. And Srila Gurudev, and then when Srila Gurudev was there, everyone would mob, everyone would be all around Srila Gurudev, and I was there standing at a distance from Srila Gurudev, and I was like, I want to go. It's something from the hand of Gurudev. This is transcendental. I want to eat the sweet that Srila Gurudev touched. And I wanted to go, but I was like, no, I'm doing this austerity. I'm doing this renunciation thing. So then I was holding back, and I was, should I go, should I not? But I was just standing there. And everyone was mobbing Gurudev, and I remember Srila Gurudev, he looked over, and he said, you, come here, and pulled me over and put a sweet in my hand, like forcefully, like put it in my hand. I was like, eat and go. And I was like, wow, Gurudev knew my heart. He said, don't do this monkey-like renunciation. Don't do false renunciation. right? But there's so much more bhakti in creating relationships, eating sugar, eating fat, eating sweets, sense gratification, the tongue. Like Sarirada Vijaja, the song saying this, the most voracious of them all is the lust of the senses of the tongue, right? But Srila Gurudev is saying, no, enjoy your tongue in service and in relationship and connection with me is much greater than being so-called renounced, eating only fruit and milk. So according to our yogya, according to our level of realization, we must know how much to take and how much not to take. Raghunath Das Goswami, not eating sweets, only begging on whatever is given to him, and that's his adhikar, that's his state of consciousness, his state of being, his samskars, and his level of bhakti and advancement. So we want to have our chitta balanced and be able to do that. And if we don't bring our chitta into balance, by definition, it's kind of our psychology, our mind, our consciousness. If that's not in balance, it creates psychological problems. It throws us out of being. It's harder for us to be able to remember Krishna. So if we take the idea of renunciation, of lust is bad, and all those things that I explained in the beginning out of context, then that can be very detrimental for our bhakti. It can be bad for our bhakti, and it can also stop us from having fun on Valentine's Day, right? It can stop us from having the relationships and having relationships in this world. So to summarize this class, right? To summarize this class, the first thing is no kama tattva. What kama is lust, and it's inseparable from the soul. It's not going anywhere. It's inherent part of our being. If you give up lust, you give up existing, and if you give up existing, you can't do bhakti, you cannot serve. That's called nirvishesh brahman. That's not the path of bhakti. That's the path of the Brahmavadis, the Mayavadis. They want to give up this world, not our path. So it's inseparable from the soul. So if bhakti is inseparable from the soul, what do? We don't give up things of this material world, like I just explained. We keep them to keep our chitta balanced, and we perform sadhana encased in that we Krishnaize everything. We like music, then we do music for Krishna. We like cooking pizza, we cook pizza for Krishna, right? We need to be in a relationship with someone, and then we create our Krishna Rasangsaro Korachari Anachar. Describe, we create our house now becomes a temple, right? We have someone that we perform sadhana bhakti with. We go and visit Gurudev, we serve, we take the sadhus in our house and we take care of them. We Krishnaize everything, right? And that's the process of bhakti. Then we know what detachment is. Detachment is taking everything in the service of Krishna and making our chitta balance. We don't overindulge, but we don't underindulge. Na nindet, na prasanset. We don't criticize and we don't glorify. We say samatvam yoga uchate. What yoga is, described in Bhagavad Gita, is samatvam, and equipoised. Not too much, not too little. We stay in that place of balance, then we can practice bhakti. Now, some people, for Valentine's Day, that place of balance is they got to go on a romantic date. They got to get the candles. They got to get the grape pretend wine. You know, the devotees get the cantinella, what's it called? The apple juice stuff, the sparkling apple juice. They got to do that because otherwise it throws their chitta off. Now, for someone else, it could be totally indulgent and not beneficial for one's bhakti. So you've got to know where you are and what renunciation is. And you've got to know, yeah, that's the next part. You see, they build upon each other. You've got to know what one's adhikar, what one's levels of advancement is, and what one needs to be able to stay with chitta balanced. And that's why we have Guru to be able to help and guide us, but also we have to know. And this is something, I tell you another story of one time I was with Srila Gurudev, and he wanted me to, long story short, basically my chitta was out of balance and I had unresolved things from childhood. I had issues with my parents from going to Gurukul at a young age, and I was emotionally unbalanced, and it was disturbing me. In Mathura, I wasn't able to, to fully be present and serve there with Srila Gurudev. And Srila Gurudev, he went for some time to another part of India, and we were still in Mathura for a few weeks, and he was going to come back. And I actually went through a panic attack. And in that panic attack, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to deal with these issues because this is a real big deal. I'm having a panic attack in the middle of the night in Mathura. So I sent a message to Gurudev, said I want to go to see my mother and my father and deal with my emotional issues because I didn't live with them. When I was 11 years old, I moved away to Gurukul in India, waking up 4 in the morning, doing a lot of that renunciation stuff, right? And so I was like, I need to deal with this stuff. And then when Srila Gurudev came back in Mathura and everyone's doing kirtan around, Srila Gurudev, he pointed in the audience and he pointed out and he was like, you want to go back home? And in Indian context, generally when people, for us Westerners and devotees, it's different. But in the Indian context, is generally people leave their family at home and they never go back home after they've joined the temple. because the worry is that if you go back home, then there's your family, your friends, they're your old previous life. You can fall into your previous habits and not practice bhakti anymore, not serve Krishna. So if you're going to dedicate, if you're going to be a brahmachari to Gurudev, you don't go back home. It's like a big taboo. So what Srila Gurudev told me was, he said, you want to go back home? He says, my brahmacharis never go back home. I never went back home. They don't go back home. And he pointed out, and this was like in front of everyone and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, bad idea. I'm not doing that. And then I called my dad, a proper disciple, Jiva Bhavana Prabhu, and I was like, sorry, I'm not doing that, right? Gurudev doesn't want me to. So then when I was always with Srila Gurudev, I would always like to massage Srila Gurudev for health reasons. Ayurvedically, you would massage every day. Some people think this is, overindulgent, but remember talking about renunciation, knowing where someone is for someone's service. Ayurvedically, taking care of his body every day, 4 or 5 of us would come and give massage 2 or 3 times a day. So I would, to massage Srila Gurudev at 11:30, the midday massage, I would put out the mat. We would have a mat that would roll out, prepare everything, get the oils out for Srila Gurudev. Then Gurudev would come sit down and we'd massage, and Gurudev would generally talk with Premananda Prabhu or talk with whoever's there, sometimes just quiet, absorbed in bhajan. And we'd be massaging. This was like everyday routine. And I did this for years and years and years with Srila Gurudev. It was my favorite kind of connection with Srila Gurudev, was that physical connection. And so when I was preparing everything, before I was around there, Srila Gurudev was alone in his room, and then he called me, he said, come here. And then I did pranams, and I came to Srila Gurudev, and he said, why are you here in my room? What are you doing? Why are you around here? And I was like, what do you mean, what am I doing? I've been doing this for years. I'm putting out your massage, I'm massaging you, I'm coming to serve. Right, I was kind of surprised by the question. He said, no. You're coming here because you want to ask me if you can go back home to deal with your emotional issues and go and do that. And then, like in my heart, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. You said no. You don't want to do it. I'm serving you. The answer is no. I'm not doing that. So what I said to Gurudev was, I was like, no, you don't want me to go. I don't go. I'm okay, right? And Srila Gurudev, he said to me, he said, I have given you like advice that I never went. This is advice, but the final decision you'll have to make. That was like such strong words, because before that I had given up my responsibility for balancing my chitta, for finding my level. So whatever Gurudev says, now I don't have to think. I get to be responsible and get bhakti. Yay, right? It was very good. But Gurudev was like, no, you're responsible for your spiritual life. You're responsible for your life. Final decision you make, I'm here to help you and mentor you and guide you along the way. So this was like a paradigm shift for me. And I remember I was like, oh my gosh, well, what I think is I think I should go back to England. But Gurudev said, no, what do I do? I was like in this conundrum. And Gurudev said, no, but I'm giving you advice. You have to make this decision. So I remember I spoke with Madhav Priya Prabhu, who is also servant of Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj and servant of Krishna Kripa Prabhu, who is now Siddhanti Maharaj, Madhav Priya Prabhu, and Amal Krishna Prabhu, and myself. 4 of us, we lived in one room in Mathura, just across from Srila Gurudev's room. So we were very, very close, right? And we would massage Gurudev together and serve, like this very, like, beautiful, right? They're senior to me, definitely, but still loving relationship. So I remember I went to Madhav Priya Prabhu and we're like friends, and I told him, and he said, look. And he kind of talked some sense into me. And I was like, you know what? I need to take responsibility. And I think the thing is for me to go back to the West. So I went back to the West and I spent 2 months. And in that time, not nearly as much bhakti and chanting as I would have been done if I was in Mathura, in Vrindavan with Srila Gurudev doing parikrama and all of that. But I went and I dealt with a lot of my psychological issues to bring myself into balance. I dealt with my childhood issues, my baggage, got rid of that baggage, at least a lot of it. And then I came back. And with that lifted off, something had changed. And then I started the Goloka preaching thing, where I had some boys and brahmacharis who traveled around and started preaching. Then I established the center in the Bay Area. Then Srila Gurudev sent me preaching into Bengal. Then he gave me sannyas. And then he sent me preaching around the world. And all of this, the whole new phase of my life, which spiraled into the service that I'm still doing today to serve and to preach, was catapulted at that moment when I took that responsibility and that decision to do like what Srila Gurudev said, take his advice, but still understand my chitta, my consciousness, where I am, and serve accordingly. So what I mean to say is, because what I'm saying is that Guru is there to guide us specifically according to our own situation, but at the same time, we need to have a level of self-awareness so that we can keep our chitta in balance. Gurudev is never going to say, take your wife out on a date on Valentine's Day. Make sure you buy the chocolates, and those chocolates you want to get one white one, one strawberry filled one, and get some chocolate covered strawberries, and make sure you have dim light. Gurudev's not going to give those instructions. He's not going to do that. But you as a living entity, you've got to know, like, if I don't do that, my chitta, my consciousness is going to be out of balance, or my wife's consciousness is going to be out of balance. My girlfriend's, and I'll develop a hard heart, and then I'll lose a taste in bhakti. We need to have that awareness about what is our adhikar, what is our level of renunciation, how is renunciation done to keep our consciousness, our chitta in balance, and then we can cultivate a higher consciousness, cultivate relationship with Krishna. But too much renunciation, like I said, or too much indulgence is bad for bhakti, takes us away. So thank you for listening to this not-so-romantic class about romance. And if you have any questions, you can have them here. Okay, sounds choppy. Let's see any questions, anything that I got here. Excuse me, technology looking different places, it's streaming in different places, so I'm not sure if I'm going to see everything. Okay, so Priya Peterson, which is Krishna Priya, Didi, sounds very choppy. I'm sorry, that's the internet connection. I don't know if I have control over that. I love that about the Grahasta having a soft heart. Yeah, definitely very true. For those who are coming on late, it's basically you have a better opportunity if you have a soft heart with love and family and friends to be able to take that love and offer it to Krishna than you have if you're like a hardcore brahmachari that's all right, and it's all like really, really tough, and you don't have that loving softness of heart to be able to offer to Krishna. That's why some devotees say that women have a better opportunity for bhakti than men, because their hearts are naturally soft. Men can kind of be tough like this, right? They say women have a better natural proclivity towards bhakti. But then I kind of see that it balances out. Women have the natural proclivity, and I'm a little bit envious of that. But at the same time, men, the way society is set up, we have brahmacharis, we have temples, we have more facilities. So I think it kind of balances out. Equal opportunity for everyone. But yes, soft heart, essential for bhakti. Okay, super important about points about someone else's mayas and another's bhakti, and on false renunciation. I completely agree with that, right? Well, and this is something that I had to manage a lot personally myself. When I was in Bengal villages, Srila Gurudev gave me an area of Bengal, and we would go and beg rice to bring to Navadvip Parkram. There's 15,000 people, and Bengalis eat a lot of rice, so we would have to feed them. So he'd have different parties to go in different areas of Bengal to beg the rice, and would have teams. So Gurudev, he actually gave us money, invested in that preaching, and he put different people under us. And there was like maybe 4 or 5 parties, and I had one in the Bengal village preaching. And I had a mix between Indians and Westerns in the group, and I had to manage everybody's chitta to keep everyone balanced, because it's like a difficult situation, very austere, emotions can get heated up, and I had to see like where people are at. You have to be a bit of a psychologist when you're leading a team, right? And I would see that what one person's, like for the Bengalis, what was enjoyable for them and the level of sense gratification they needed growing up in a mud hut in the village was very different than Westerners who grew up with the comforts of the West and the needs of the West. And the Westerners actually had greater comfort necessity, but that doesn't mean that they were less pure. It's just someone's maya is someone else's attachment. And in the same way, there were certain things that the Bengalis were really into, and the Westerners were like, I don't care about that, right? And I was able to just see that clear dichotomy that what's good for one person is bad for another, and that individuality on spiritual life, right? So I'm glad you're appreciating that. Okay, great point about a very necessity for all devotees to hear. Well, then share this. Share this video with everyone that gets more likes, more shares. If we can do that, it spikes the algorithm so more devotees can see. If we want devotees to hear. Also, I'm just started YouTube, so I started streaming on a YouTube channel. So this is streaming on YouTube and on Facebook, but I don't have followers on Facebook. So follow on YouTube to be able to watch and share with people if you like other people hearing. Okay, that's what everyone says on social media. You kind of have to say that now, right? Okay, super important points about someone else's mayas and others' bhakti. Excellent. Thank you, Damodar Prabhu, Damodar Prasad Prabhu, for the encouragement. I'm hoping to help people on this most auspicious, holy, spiritual day of Valentine. He is actually a saint, wasn't he? Anyway, I'm sarcastic if you didn't get that. So, importance of giving yourself permission. Yeah, exactly. You've got to just like let your hair loose. You just got to relax, give yourself permission, chill out sometimes. Because when you practice bhakti for a while, you notice a lot of people come And a lot of people go and practice bhakti when you've been doing this. Like I've been fortunate my whole life to be in the devotee world. And whenever someone's new, they've been a devotee for 3 months or for 1 year. Oh my gosh, they seem like Mahabhagavats. They're shaved, they're eating simply, they're waking up, they're chanting all day, they're always in kirtan, always doing seva. And someone's been devotee for 20, 30 years, they're sitting back, they're watching TV, and it's like, what's going on here? There's like, it seems like the new person's more advanced. But you've got to understand, okay, well, I think that got cut off. Okay, so the video got cut off, but you should probably still be getting my sound. My camera actually just, I guess, ran out of battery or turned out. But if you're still listening to this, I'll continue going over the comments. And please like and share, but you won't be able to see me because my video ran out of battery. My camera ran out of battery. Okay, so let's see. Any other questions? Make sure you ask here, and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, so, oh my, OMG, I love this. I've embraced these teachings, but hardly heard them from another. Now, that's also something that I see. A lot of devotees have this kind of mature, balanced relationship with spiritual life and bhakti, because if you're going to stay in for the long haul, you've got to kind of chill with your heart. You got to chill with yourself. You got to know what you can and can't do, and where you're at. So a lot of devotees have this, but it's not clearly said, and it's also not explained philosophically. So some people think that they have their own things, but there's not like, how do you see it shastrically? So I was hoping with this video is to have shastra, tattva, to show the realities of how you can just have a cool Valentine's Day, right? And give yourself balance with that. Damn, you know what you're talking about, Indira. Yes, Indira Didi, it's something that I've gotten a lot because a lot of people have attacked me over this with my whole Maverick Monk Yellow thing. I got into this one a lot, but also that's my service to Srila Gurudev, right? I learn from Srila Gurudev and try to share with you. Dandavat pranams. Yes, Dandavat pranams to you. Dvija Prabhu. What about take in count? For example, now Prabhuji is on earth. I'm asking in terms to take advantage while they're available. I think what you're saying, Dvija Prabhu, is okay. Please correct me in the comments and ask, and I will if I'm not understanding your question. But what I think you're saying is you're referring to when I was saying us taking our own responsibility for our spiritual life, right? How do we take our own responsibility for our spiritual life, and then balancing that with the instructions of Guru? Shouldn't we just close our mind and listen to Guru and not have that individuality, or should we? How do you say? Just listen to what Guru says, or do we make our own things? And for you, I have a relationship. I know you, Dvija Prabhu. So you're saying like, well, what about taking advantage of that association with Sriman Premananda Prabhu and listening and following him as Guru? And I say, yeah, I never said you don't need a Guru. You totally need a Guru. You always need guidance. You always need high association from Vaishnavas, because if there's no high association with Vaishnavas, if there's no association with Vaishnavas and guidance, then we have no opportunity in bhakti. Srila Gurudev used to say, Guru Nishtha is the backbone in bhakti. Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Kalai. Everything is about association with Vaishnavas and being under guidance. But what I'm saying is that does not make us an irresponsible person. We are still responsible for our body. We're still responsible for our mind. We're still responsible in this context for keeping our chitta balance and doing what we need to do. Like, we don't need to ask Gurudev permission. Should I brush my teeth? Should I go to the toilet? Should I eat this for lunch or that for lunch? That we're not there to disturb Guru and Vaishnavas like that. What we're really there to do is to create relationship with Guru and Vaishnavas and please Guru and Vaishnavas and give and give and give to Guru and Vaishnavas and take their guidance and follow to our best of our ability and our sincerity. If you have someone which is like a bhajan shiksha guru, or someone who is a guru that is guiding you and teaching you in bhakti, that knows you very well, then they can also give more specific instructions like this. I see that there's some new people coming on, coming off. Sorry, the video cut out. Well, my camera cut out. I'm going to have to fix that for the next time. But, have a happy Valentine's Day. That was the last slide. Very nice slide my slide people made. Okay, now let's see what Damodar Prasad Prabhu is saying. What is in the importance of giving yourself permission to do your personal best rather than forcing yourself to do the objective best? Okay, so first of all, this is a point that I take very seriously. There is no such thing as an objective best. right? There is no such thing as an objective best. For Mother Yashoda, her objective best is one type of service, and the coward boys, their objective best is a different type of service. In the same way, in the material world, we all have different samskars, different, that means like impressions and tendencies. We have different karma from our previous life. We have different body, mind. We have different souls. We have different association. We are different people. We're different beings by very definition. So an objective best, I think, is actually a very sad thing that people try to aspire to, because everyone has a different standard of what that objective best is. And it's impossible to be that objective best because there's a different standard, and because that's not in alignment with who you are. So we're not trying to meet some external objective standard. There are general principles which can be supportive for bhakti, like general principles, like we talk about the four regulated principles, right? Or we talk about the do's and the don'ts and general principles, what's favorable and unfavorable for bhakti. But still, we have an individual relationship with each one of those things. Right? I read a quote from Srila Prabhupada today that says that for an alcoholic, Krishna is in the taste of alcohol. And Krishna is there, but for someone else, an alcohol is like complete destruction of one's bhakti. No objective thing. It's subjective dharma. Dharma by nature is subjective. Even if you look at varnashram dharma, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, these four ashrams and kshatriyas, brahman, kshatriya, vaishya, sudra, there's different rules for each one of them. And even in those castes, in those, how do you say, divisions of people, there's different levels of Brahmins and different levels of Kshatriya and different types of Dharma. So in order to instruct the masses, because not everyone has personal relationship with Guru and Vaishnava, and not everyone has the adhikar or the elevation to be able to, not everyone has the adhikar or the elevation to be able to have a personal relationship with Vaishnava, or even to be sincere enough or aware enough of their own body and their own being. So Shastra and Vaishnava create general rules, general so-called objective standards, which in most cases, if you observe them by principle, are good. But as you advance more in bhakti, it becomes much more personalized, much more personalized, much more personalized. So yeah, it's all about your personal best. Because if you're trying to do something objective and you're not doing your personal best, you're either throwing your chitta out of balance, your consciousness out of balance, by doing something which is way too hard for your level, for where you're at, or you're doing something way too easy because your objective best is way too easy and you're not actually moving to advance in bhakti, or it just throws you off. You can't advance in bhakti that way. You can't advance in bhakti if you're trying to do things objectively. If you did, then you don't need Gurudev. You don't need Vaishnavas. You don't need Harikatha. Then you would have Moses with your commandments, and there's the same commandments for everyone. Anyway, I can hammer on this point for a while because I think it's one of the biggest misconceptions and disturbances for devotees to be able to try to live to some objective standard rather than subjective bhakti, because when you advance in bhakti, it's all dharma subjective. Okay, I think that's the last of the comments. So Indira Dasi, yes, I'm sure it was to one of the points that I was making, and it was great. And everyone, happy Valentine's Day. Remember to share. And if you haven't helped this devotee, his personal best is to be able to go to India and dedicate his life completely to serve as a brahmachari. I did a little fundraiser for him. The link should be above or below or somewhere around this video. If you can help him, he's a poor boy in Africa, then if he's a poor boy in Africa, then there's nothing I can do. Okay, the YouTube link. I was asked to share the YouTube link. Let me see if I can do this. Because Krishna Priya Didi, in order to be able to do this webcast like this, you don't know how complicated it is. We have 2 computer monitors, a camera, wires everywhere, lights. It's like a whole setup. And so I'm actually streaming from one software to another web service, which is then streaming to YouTube and to Facebook. So I have the link now, and now I'm on Facebook. Let's see if I can find how I can share that link on this video. I don't know if I can comment on my own video. Yeah, it seems like I can't do that, but I'll put it later, right? I'll share it on the video at the end of this. Okay, any other questions or comments? Even though you cannot see me, but you can hear me, right? Anything else? Okay, well, have a Vaishnav happy Valentine's Day and advance in bhakti. God Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Dandavat Pranams.